Hello friends, this is Charles Warger from First Baptist Church. One thing that I focus on as a pastor is theology and being theologically sound. It is of very big importance. Without proper theology, a church is basically a social club. It's our theology, our views on God and what God expects of us and desires of us, and what God turns us into through transformation, being born again. Well, that's what separates us into a church. So theology is of utmost importance. And there's some people that think, well, I don't really have any theology. Well, everyone has theology. Theology just means, theos is God, and ology is the term from logos, which means words. So it's words or thoughts about God. That's all theology is. Some people will try to make it sound more sophisticated than that, but it's basically words or thoughts about God. It's on all areas. It's really important for us to have sound doctrine. And I'm going to tell you what I mean. Theology, all of our there's so many different aspects of theology. There's theology of salvation. There's theology of the end times. There's theology of Jesus Christ. There's all these different theologies. Theology of man. And there's all these different theologies, and the way that we work them together ends up being a version of a systematic theology. Now, I argue that we can't have a complete systematic theology because there is a big element of mystery in our faith. But in a way, we have a partial systematic theology. However, one false doctrine can ruin our whole theological system. And that's why I'm passionate about keeping our words and our lessons, our sermon and our music theologically sound in all aspects, because one false thing can make our whole theological system collapse. I call that the butterfly effect. Remember, for example, in the movie Back to the Future, when Marty went back and he interrupted the way that his mom and dad were supposed to meet? Remember that? And just that one act changed the future. Well, it's the same in theology. One small theological error somewhere, can change the rest, can put the rest of your whole theology in error. I call that the butterfly effect. Think of an engine, and it all works properly, all works together. Now, what would happen if you take the battery and turn it upside down? Would your engine work? Or if you would take the spark plugs out? Or if you would, the alternator, if you would turn it around? Of course not. Things have to be where they're supposed to be. And that's the same with our words and our thoughts about God. For our theology to be right, our words and our thoughts about God need to be correct. And if we are wrong, if we are not biblical in one area, it can really shape other areas. That means, I'm trying to say in all areas, we need to try to remain biblical. For example, some people don't believe that Jesus Christ is divine. Now, Jesus Christ is not 100% God and 100% man, then he can't be our mediator. And if Jesus Christ isn't our mediator, then his death on the cross can't atone for my sins. That means I don't have a way to salvation. Do you see how important that is? If you don't believe Jesus is man, that's the same thing. There's some people that believe, I heard a sermon somewhere where actually someone believed that Jesus sinned. Well, if Jesus sinned, then he can't be the perfect sacrifice for us. Jesus can't be the lamb that cleanses us of our sin, because he's supposed to be the perfect sin sacrifice. So do you see my point? Theology runs together and it overlaps with each other. And if you're wrong on this point, then you're going to have a major error here. And friends, that's why I focus on the Bible. That's why I focus that we need to go to the Bible and make sure what we say and sing and teach is sound theologically and biblically. Because it affects our theology, and our theology affects our lives. Our perspective of God, you better believe, it affects our lives. Not just our church, but our personal lives. How we see God and how we see ourselves. So anyway, thank you guys for listening to this. And God bless you. Have a very good day.